Hi guys, and welcome back. Please subscribe, and I'm shouting out this subscriber, Rosie Puku, or that's how I believe it's pronounced. If it isn't, please do tell me, or also known as the Rascal Lewis Overlord. I don't know. Anyways, let's get on with this video.
I was like, how just wrong? It's like when you read a book and then you watch the movie and you're like, what is this? But it's even worse because it's real people. It's real people, and we're not even into the actual victims yet, which makes me sick to my stomach. Like, he should have just made a show like Psycho or like Bates Motel or Chainsaw Massacre. There's a reason why people make these fake serial killers instead of the real one, because you can go off and make stuff and you could do stuff inspired by something. But when you're putting Ed Gein's name on something and the actual victims' names in something, you have to tell the truth. In my opinion, it just doesn't fly with me. So let's move on to episode 2, which is Sick as Your Secrets. Guys, we are doing our biggest candy drop ever and our coolest, with exclusive posters and a brand new product. I'm so excited! As you guys know, my husband and I, Caleb, own a candy company. We own it 100%. We make it right here in the middle of Texas. And it's Halloween, which means it's candy season. It's our season. And we have bundles that are live right now, along with new flavors. Right now, you can get 12 bags of candy, 11 stickers, Sour Ups, which is our new product, which is sour sand, and it's like different flavors, so you can make your candy more sour and just have like a beautiful mirage of different flavors. I was a big fan of Fun Dips growing up, so it kind of like taking that concept but doing it with candy, so you can mix it in the bag and mix it up. You could dip it. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can eat it out of the bag. I'm not your mom. You can do whatever you want, okay? Don't tell your mom I said that. And we have posters. We have 18-inch posters made by an extremely talented artist, Ray Dillon, who's an incredible comic book artist, and they're custom. They're so cool.
And if Comic Chris, if you're watching this, please, can we collab? Because I love your videos, especially the true crime ones, so. Anyway.
And you can get 3 of them. And then it includes all of our October flavors, plus some extra strawberry strips and blue raspberry little guys. And besides those, the flavors are pink lemonade strips, cherry pineapple gummies, blue raspberry lemon grape strips, rainbow sherbet gummies, strawberry strips, and blue raspberry gummies, okay? It's a lot, and it's delicious. Not to mention, we have another bundle that has signed posters, signed by yours truly and my husband. There's only 100 of them, and I think there's only like maybe 30 left. So run, go get them now. And they're 24 inches, so they're even bigger than the other bundle. But make sure to go to the bundle page on sour.gg to see both bundles. We love creating all of these new crazy flavors for you guys and these new products. We're so happy that you guys love them too. I hope you guys have a fabulous Halloween, and I hope it's sweet and a little bit sour. All right, let's get back to the video. So episode 2 opens with Ed experiencing nightmares of Holocaust victims stemming from his obsession with Nazi material. I'm fine with this. You can have a little dream. That's fine. Whatever. The show then jumps to 1959 Hollywood, where Alfred Hitchcock, his wife Alma, and author Robert Bloch discuss how Gein's crimes will inspire Psycho's Norman Bates, and they explore how Ed's fascination with death began early, fueled by pulp magazines, and about criminals like Nazi Isla Coke, establishing the connection between Gein's real crimes and emerging horror cinema. And this is also just very the way they say things is so whoa, he looked at this, and it went deeper than that, and I feel like there was more to it, but overall, they weren't wrong. He was infatuated with certain types of magazines and with Nazi memorabilia. Not until later in his life, though, but whatever, I'll let it slide, okay? So we'll give a loose fact. And then, back in 1950s Wisconsin, Ed's relationship with Adeline deepens bizarrely, and she dreams of photographing crime scenes in New York. Well, he shows her a bowl made from a human skull, which she dismisses as dark humor. And when he invites her to meet his mother, Adeline discovers Augusta's preserved corpse sitting in a chair and flees in terror. All just completely false. None of it ever happened. What is even happening right now? But shaken, Ed visits Mary Hogan's tavern, where he suddenly shoots and kills her, dragging her body back to his farm while police remain oblivious. And yes, he did kill Mary Hogan, but the way they lead up to it, it's just not what happened with the whole Adeline thing going on. So we'll give a false and a fact. Because, yeah, I guess. And then the episode ends with Hitchcock directing Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, showing him artifacts meant to mirror Gein's grotesque collection, cementing the link between real horror and Hollywood fiction. And here's where I'm like, okay, is this like a weird way for Ryan to be like, see, Hollywood always makes up stuff like I'm doing, which makes it okay? I'm like, no. Because the thing with Hitchcock is he's actually making a completely fictional movie with light inspiration from Ed Gein. You're just making a Ed Gein movie and putting your own random fucked up shit into the movie to make it more interesting so you can sell it better. It's not the same. So if anybody's arguing like, well, he put lots of things into the show to be like, oh, well, this is, Hollywood romanticizes it and he leans into that with this. It's like, no, see, you guys see the difference, This is fiction, psycho fiction.
Nope. Okay, so that, I'm gonna unpause that.
Fiction,
This.
psycho fiction, Ed Gein, not fiction. Anyway, let's move on to episode 3. And the next episode, made me upset, okay? Episode 3 is The Babysitter, all right? This is Addison Rae's episode. First off, and I'll add this in as well, the acting, great. The acting from everyone, fantastic. The stylization, great. Cinematography, great. He knows how to make a good show, and we'll get into that later. So I just want to start with that. But this episode just revolved around a completely false narrative about a victim who likely died extremely violently, but is unsolved and absolutely was not one of Ed Gein's victims and was kidnapped, and God knows what happened to her. But Ryan Murphy thought since she's gone and her whole family's dead at this point because of the year that this happened, he could just do whatever he wants and make up a story about a real human being who now is deceased and most likely died in a horrific way and terrified, and he just decided to just make up his own little story and make Ed Gein the killer. Anyway, episode 3 opens with Ed dancing alone in his farmhouse wearing his mother's clothes and a mask made from human skin, which we can safely assume he wore the masks he made, so fine. Was he known to dress in his mother's clothing? No, so a false and a fact, I guess. And when police arrive to question him about Mary Hogan's disappearance, Ed perfectly plays the awkward grieving son, claiming car trouble kept him home with Augusta, successfully deflecting suspicion despite witness placing his truck near Mary's tavern. He did not get caught for this, so fine. Later, Ed reunites with Adeline at the diner. Every time Adeline's name comes up, put it on the false, because it just didn't happen. All right. And despite her previous terror, she warms to him again. She shows him photos of a transgender woman, fascinating Ed with concepts of identity transformation, and he promises her a surprise. And that night, at a cemetery, Ed proposes to Adeline with a ring stolen from a fresh grave, and disturbingly, she accepts. This never happened. She does say later on, after Ed is arrested, that there was a proposal made. It was at her house. It wasn't at the graves. But then she retracts everything she said. So it could be an attention thing. It could be something that happened. But we know Ryan Murphy's going to take any little grain of salt and just make it into a giant iceberg. So, like, loosely kind of true if she was right, but it's not proven in any way, especially based off Ed Gein's accounts. He says that wasn't the case when he was very forthcoming about everything else that happened. So I'm going to safely assume it was false, but we don't know for sure. Anyway, the episode interweaves Hollywood's exploitation of the Gein story as Anthony Perkins becomes trapped playing Norman Bates, struggling with his own sexuality while studios demand sequels. And I don't mind this intertwining of the, like Psycho being made and everything. That's fine, but I just wish the Ed Gein stuff was actually true. Then it would just make more sense. I think it just belittles everything else around it, in my opinion. So anyway, back in Wisconsin, Ed's behavior escalates when he babysits local children, and he did babysit local children. But in the show, he terrorizes them with decomposed heads as games, finally alerting parents that something's wrong with the town's quiet handyman. People actually liked Ed Gein. They actually liked him and they were fine with him babysitting. He was known to be a very good babysitter and not to torment the kids at all. So we're gonna have to throw up another giant false. None of that ever happened. It's for shock value. It's not true. And that night, Ed abducts Evelyn. And this is the woman I was talking about where they just completely manufactured a story about a real person. And it frustrates me. But Evelyn was a young babysitter and she recently recovered from polio. That's not true. And Ed murders her in the barn while forcing Augusta's preserved corpse to participate in the violence, signaling his progression from grave robbing to killing living victims. All of that's false. All of it is false. Ed never abducted Evelyn. He never killed Evelyn. He never put his mother in front of the victims to kill them in front and participate and all this kind of stuff. None of that ever happened. Evelyn Grace Hartley, born November 22nd, 1938, disappeared October 24th, 1953. And she was the daughter of a professor. And in the show, they have her babysitting 2 kids when she was actually babysitting one 20-month-year-old girl. Why even make up 2 kids? Like, anything Ryan can lie about and just make extra bad, he does. And it just makes me so mad. But she was babysitting for the Rasmussen family in La Crosse when she failed to check in at 8:30 p.m. This is the real story, by the way, because I feel like we owe her this. And her father found the house with locked doors, lights on, furniture moved, and her belongings scattered in different rooms, and her glasses broken. And a basement window was open with pry marks and a stepladder positioned beneath it. And blood was found inside the house and yard, with bloody handprints in a nearby garage. And the baby was unharmed, thankfully. So police dogs tracked Evelyn's scent to Cooley Drive, 2 blocks away, where she was likely put in a vehicle. And witness Ed Hoffer reported nearly being hit by a speeding 1942 green Buick with 2 men and a girl inside. And he'd seen them earlier with the girl wedged between them holding her arms. And for the record, Ed Gein's car was a maroon 1949 Ford 4-door sedan, so not even Ed Gein's car. And days later, blood-stained clothing matching Evelyn's blood type was found at various locations, and over 1,000 people, including National Guard and Air Force, searched for her. It was like one of the largest searches in Wisconsin history, and every vehicle in La Crosse County was inspected. And in May 1954, controversial mass lie detector tests were conducted on local high school boys, but halted after testing 300. And in November 1957, serial killer Ed Gein was investigated, but cleared after passing 2 lie detector tests. And in 2004, a 1969 bar recording surfaced in which Clyde Peterson implicated himself and Jack Gulfair in Evelyn's murder, claiming she was buried at Lafarge. But both men had died by then, and Evelyn's parents moved to Oregon in the 1970s and have since passed away, and her case remains unsolved. So that's the real story about Evelyn, and that's all readily available online, and there is a lot more information about Evelyn. Also, she never had polio. That's just a weird thing he made up for the story, I guess. But this is a real-life human being who walked and breathed and...
So, I'm back on the app.
I thought you were done meeting people online.
Never again. I meant Zillow.
For the story, I guess. But this is a real-life human being who walked and breathed and had experiences, and then for like Ryan to make this up and for the actors to like look at that and be like, yeah, that's fine. It makes me mad. Like, if that was my sister or if that was my daughter, I would sue them to the ground, but they're all dead. They can't do anything.
Anyways, see you in part 3.